Hello, fellow homeschoolers, and those thinking about homeschooling, and those who have thrown in the towel on homeschooling. This is your veteran homeschooler, Martita, and I'm coming to you with a video tonight after dark. The video is going to be about why I decided to homeschool my children. Now, I know that probably should have been my first video, but we were in a crisis. We still are. We were in a pandemic. We still are. And you all needed some tips real quickly because they just threw you into homeschooling when homeschooling is indeed a calling. And I just want to share with you some 10 reasons why I homeschool. And someone asked me the other day, why you always do 10 things? Well, when I was in my early 20s, I worked for the famous 96 Rock station. And one day I answered the phone in my, hello, thank you for calling 96 Rock. I would always have fun when I'd answer the phone because you never knew who was on the other end. So this particular time that I answered the phone, hello, 96 Rock, it was David Letterman or David Letterman's people. And they really liked my phone voice. And they wanted me to do the promos for the top 10 list. So my top 10 reasons, or my 10 reasons, is a nod to David Letterman because I have some history there. I was the promo girl for David Letterman on 96 Rock. And I know I'm dating myself because that's way back in the 90s, but that's what it was, and that's why I do the 10 list. So I digress, but I'm going to tell you more. I'll peel back the layers. I'll tell you more as we go along this journey together. But 10 reasons why I decided to homeschool my children. But before I get into it, like, subscribe, share, hit the notifications so you can get more of my videos because we're going to peel back the layers of homeschooling and let you know that homeschoolers don't all look the way you think they do. Everybody's not in the long dresses and the long one braid. And God forgive me because, we all have that image of the homeschoolers. They are the hippies or they live on a commune. We come up with this stuff in our mind, but homeschoolers look like anybody. And in my book, The Homeschool Choice, I tell you all about it. I will put a link in my video. So make sure you look at all the links because I'm going to put some great things in there. But long before I started to homeschool, before I get to my list, before I started to homeschool, I had a teacher. I would say about the 6th or 7th grade. She really didn't like her job. Now, she did not come in and announce that she didn't like her job, but her actions announced that she did not like her job. I mean, she would just come in, racing through the parking lot in her red Trans Am, and come out, get in the, walking down the hall and plop down in the chair, put on her lipstick and spray her Aquanet and spray perfume, trying to cover up the fact that she had just smoked a cigarette. I guess she was drinking a Tab drink. I mean, she always had like a can of Tab soda or something. I don't know. It's kind of, that image is sort of burned in my mind. I think she liked red because I think I remember her having some red pants. So she had a red car, she wore red lipstick and wore red pants. But I digress. But this lady did not like her job. She would, you know how most teachers are hands-on, or at least back in the day, they would be at the board. This lady would have handouts and pass it out and have us doing work. And children just, some children can learn with worksheets, but most are, most like interaction or they're hands-on or what have you. But this lady just wasn't teaching us. So my friend and I, we went and told some of our favorite teachers, this lady's not doing anything. She's just in there putting on lipstick. I don't know what she would, if cell phones were back then, she'd been on her cell phone. She'd been all about the social media. She would have. But they told us, go tell your parents and tell the principal. So my friend and I, we told the principal. She got wind that we were in the office. So she sent everybody to lunch and she kept my friend and myself, she kept us back in the class. She blocked the door, so that means she held us hostage, and she tried to drill us and find out what we were down there the telling the principal. My friend almost broke. I was like, "Girl, don't do it. Don't do it." And she didn't break. She did let us out eventually. I'm like, "Hey, they're gonna miss us at lunch. Somebody's gonna come get us." So she did let us out eventually, but that kind of scarred probably a few people in that class. And I don't say scarred in a bad way, but a light bulb came on. So, things that happen to you also happen for you. And I'll say that again, things that happen to you also happen for you. So, it's funny that I think on that. Many of the people in my class now homeschool their children. Not because of me, but because of that occurrence. And maybe you have an occurrence like that. And I'm not trying to sway you either way. Like I said, homeschooling is a calling. If you feel like you want to homeschool, or if you can resonate with something that I'm saying, if I can do it, you can do it. And, those are just my reasons. Or that was a number one reason way before I had children. My eyebrow was raised on that one. It was like, And even in that grade, I'm like, how many more people are out there like her? Because we had great teachers, and this is not a bash a teacher type of video. It's just, there's good, there's bad. And there are good teachers that know that there are bad teachers out there. And I pray that your children never get a teacher that just hates their job. If you hate your job so much, then go find something that's satisfying to you, or don't damage others because you don't like what you're doing. So, reason number one, safety. My husband has a background in law enforcement. So my husband, he had already said daycare is going to be out. School is probably going to be out. He wanted to homeschool before we even conceived. Before we even talked about getting married. He was like, "Oh, I want to homeschool. What do you feel on homeschooling?" I'm like, I don't know. I'm not that kind of person to be homeschooling. I had those images that other people have, thinking, "Oh, homeschoolers, they're a little But I got on board with it. But it was a lot of safety. Like I said, my husband had some bad calls at some daycares and bad calls at school. So, safety was a concern. Number two, we decided to homeschool because we did put our children in pre-K, and they went to pre-K kindergarten. And we were disappointed with our school system. Now, I'm going to tell you, if you're a new parent, because you might not know to do this, you just send your child to the neighborhood school. That's exactly what I did. I'm like, "Oh, it'll be fine. It's the neighborhood school. Well, how bad could it be?" Do your research. I don't know what the websites are now, but it was one in particular that was pretty hot around the time that I did my research for the school afterwards. It was called schooldigger.com. And I'll put a link in my video. So be sure to like, subscribe, share, hit the notifications so you'll know when I put out other videos. But it was schooldigger.com. So it will tell you, and I'm outside, so you may see anything fly across the screen. It will tell you about the school, the ratings, how it rates in your county, how the schools are. Like, they give them a star, what have you. And when I found out my school was kind of like the bottom of the bottom, I was like, "Oh my God, why did I not do this?" I'm just thinking, "Oh, I went to a good school when I was a kid. We had a bad apple, but my school was great, And I'm still thinking, "Oh, school is still good." Do your research before you send your child to any school. You need to ask around. Number three, the curriculum was subpar, in my opinion. As a homeschooler, you get to choose the curriculum that you want to teach your child. when you go to any other school, you don't have a choice. You have to, you get what you get. You know, I don't I don't know any other way to put it. You don't have a choice to say, I don't think we should learn this, or y'all need to take this out of the curriculum, or I don't like this Common Core stuff. You don't have a say. You just have to, whatever your whatever your tax dollars are paying for, that's what you get. So with homeschool, you do have a choice. You pick the curriculum. You all are doing school at home, not necessarily homeschooling, because homeschooling means you're in charge of everything. You pick the curriculums, you teach everything. That's homeschool. School at home, that's a whole nother thing right there. Number 4. So let me just recap. Safety was a concern. I was disappointed with the school system. The curriculum I felt was subpar. They didn't have high expectations for the children, and I was a little disappointed with that. Number 4, I have advanced learners and gifted children. And what I want to share with you is, we say special needs, and we only think one way for special needs, when in fact, gifted students have special needs as well. They need to be challenged. And sometimes the school cannot meet that need. Yes, they may have a gifted program. They may have what they call, I've heard it called Quest. I've heard it called academically gifted. I've heard it called gifted and talented. So you'll hear AGGT, Quest, whatever that is. You'll hear it called different things at different schools. But if you're at a school that's bottom of the barrel, what does that really mean? And that's what I kept asking my husband. Is this child really gifted, or he's just more advanced than what they're used to? So, you have to weigh that out too. I can do another video on teaching gifted learners, or a child with challenges, because, I have people that I help write curriculums for them, and they're academically challenged child. There's like a spectrum. So, you have maybe at this end of the spectrum, you hear special needs. That may mean a child with a learning disability, maybe a mental challenge. And then you have the top of the spectrum, where you have your gifted learners. They're still special needs too, because they get bored and they will act out. Some of your class clowns were in fact geniuses. You can look at comedians and you go, they're mighty witty. They're really witty. They were really, really smart, but it kind of turned another direction. You'll see that a trait of a gifted learner, their wit. They are so witty, just quick with the wit. So have a lot of friends that are comedians. They're very gifted, but I don't think it works for them, but it didn't get steered in the way that maybe it could have been steered. So it turns into being the class clown. And I can relate to that. Number 5, I wanted my children to learn what interested them and what they were interested in. Like I said, when you go to any other school other than homeschool, the curriculum is already selected for you. So you don't have a choice. So my children have been into gaming and designing games for a very long time. I would say it started about when they were about 5 or 6 years old. They got into coding. Well, in my county, there wasn't a program for children to learn to code. So I had to go to Atlanta. I'm actually watching right now. I digress, but a frog is trying to eat a spider right in front of me. So how could I not be distracted by that? I digress. But my children were interested in coding. So I had to take them to Georgia Tech so that they could get some classes, and they learn to code, and they're still into programming languages. Like my son, he's always one of them. He's always reading like Python and whatever the coding language for the day or the week or the month is. He tries to stay up on all the coding languages, and he's done some really, really amazing things, but that's because um, he has the outlet at homeschool. Like, we do our coursework, but we also give him the opportunity to learn what interests him. Um, Number six, my child was withdrawn in school, and when I say withdrawn, not like they kicked him out or we took him out of school. Not that type of withdrawn. He would keep his coat on. He he wasn't necessarily sad, but he wouldn't really mingle with the children too much. He just his mind was just turning and doing some different things that the children his age could not like he couldn't relate to them. They didn't have the same conversation that he had. So he would just like he was just withdrawn. He wouldn't eat lunch. He wouldn't take his coat off. He would play by himself on the playground, and that just broke my heart. I'm like, oh God, I cannot let my kid just be He can't just sit there and isolate himself from the rest of the kids. So we knew, okay, we're gonna have to get them out of there. And not like it's a bad place. I'm not. That's not where I'm going with this. But you need to pay attention to the cues that your kids are sending you. Number 7, they had my child teaching his peers at school. And that's good and well. And I understand that when you teach, you learn twice. I get that. I get the whole concept. But don't have my child doing your job and you're not sharing your check. Because then it takes my mind back to the 6th grade, to the teacher who didn't want to do her job and just plopped down and made us teach ourselves. So that was really stirring up something in me. And I said, we're not going to do that. Because they do. Sometimes they say, the teacher says, look, I'm outnumbered. I'm going to take one of my little advanced little students, keep them busy, stop pestering me, and don't interrupt the class. Let them teach the class. And it was cute, but like I said, if you're going to teach, we need a check. And didn't you go to school to teach? He didn't. So let's keep the perspective here. Number 8, my husband had a hectic schedule. So my husband, like I said, was in law enforcement. He's retired now, thank God. But when the babies were born, my husband was in a rigorous flight training program. He was getting his pilot's license, learning to fly a helicopter. And, we barely saw him. Like, we were always home, but when he came in, he was just dog tired, maybe working 12, 13 hours a day and just really just sleeping. We got to see him on his days off, but he wanted to get in time with his family and with, he wanted to be with us. So we would adjust our schedule. And by homeschooling, we were able to adjust our schedule so that we could have family time, quality family time. Because, we had these children so that, we could love on them, not just have them and never see them. So it was about our family schedule too, because when you're homeschooling, you can be as flexible as you want to. And this is just kind of a side note. Whatever schedule works for your family, because homeschooling, and I can tell you on behalf of other homeschoolers, we may not do school from 8 to 2 or 8 to 3 or what have you. Some of us, some of the children that are homeschooled are like elite athletes. So they may go to practice in the morning and they may not start school until 1 in the evening, 1 in the afternoon. They do training. Oh, honey, I could tell you some things. They do some training. Some of them are Olympic swimmers, so they swim all morning get a nap, and then start school maybe 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Some of them even start school maybe at 5 o'clock at night or 5 o'clock in the evening and go to maybe 10 o'clock and then get some rest, and then they do it all over in the morning. So school doesn't look the same. And some of you all were beating yourselves up because you were trying to make your homeschool look like the school that the children came from. Homeschoolers can knock out school in 4 hours. It does not take 8 hours or 7 hours or however long they are at school. It doesn't take that long when you're a homeschooler. You you can do your work in like 4 hours and you can get it all knocked out. So that's a good thing about homeschooling. You have those flexible schedules. And number 9, our budget was pretty tight when we first got started and when we first started homeschooling. Now, I'm not saying we have a windfall, but things have changed. Things are different, and the children have different needs now than they did when we were just getting started. So our budget was tight, so we couldn't send them to, somewhere else to do school. It was me. It was me or the neighborhood school. So it had to be me. Number 10, last but not least, we want to instill our own belief systems and values in our children. And that's a big reason why we homeschool. I don't want someone else's belief system to be ingrained in my child or my children. I want that belief system to come from me. So you have that flexibility when you are a homeschooler, be it safety, be it your disappointment with the school system, be it the curriculum that you don't like. You as a homeschooler, you have the ability to change all of that. And I'm going to put a link to my book. You can read my book, and it'll help kind of guide you along the way as to maybe how to get started or where to start or the different types of homeschooling. And I'll be doing more videos on different types of homeschool styles because it's not just one method. It's as different as a fingerprint. It's as unique as your family. As you see now with the COVID situation, anybody can homeschool anywhere, anytime. Whatever works for you, that's your school. So this is Martita, and I hope to see you out in these homeschool streets. But if I see you in these homeschool streets, I hope that you have on a mask, because I'm going to have on my mask, and I want you to have on yours, and we're going to protect each other. Because just because the states have opened back up doesn't mean that COVID has gone away. Well, it's really nice. I'm going to just sit on out here and enjoy the rest of the night. And I guess I'll go in at some point, but not right now. I'm just enjoying the peace and the quiet. And now it's like the crickets. Oh, I just love that sound. Anywho, I'm out, and I'm Martita, seeing you out in these homeschool streets. Have a good evening. Bye.